Hey everybody, welcome to Breakfast All Day. It's Christy, it's Alonso. Matt is not feeling great today, and so he's sleeping in, and we're letting him because we're nice that way.
We're going to drag Matt out to the pool. Talk about movies with us, Matt.
Opine.
So it's just the two of us here.
Yes.
We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. So it's two of us. We've got a bunch of news, though, a bunch of reviews. And then I just had a great talk with Katie Walsh about The Last Duel. So we'll have a review of that coming up here in a bit as well. But the big news of the week is that Superman is gay and people are pissed about that.
Yeah. And as always, you have to sort of parse out what that even means because it's not Clark Kent, Kal-El. No. It is Jonathan Kent, who apparently in the current iteration of the comics, which I am not reading, so I'm scrambling to keep up as much as anybody else, is the son of Clark and Lois, and he's been sort of filling in as Superman of late, and anyway, and he's bi, I think is the deal, but he has a boyfriend. Great, fine, whatever, that's cool. DC Comics, like, it's something. I have seen people be thrilled about this and people complain about it. And then like the people who you would think be thrilled about it also complaining about the fact that whenever DC does this stuff, it's never to the legacy characters. But
a legacy character. Superman's a legacy character, is he not?
Well,
if ever there was one.
Clark Kent's Superman is a legacy character.
I see. This is his son. It's not the same guy.
Exactly. So
son of Soups.
I'm not mad at this. This is all. I think it's all fine. And then I think when the people who get mad about it are the usual suspects who get mad about it, and they're just showing their own ass in public. So whatever, let them.
Like Dean Cain, for example.
Yes, because, who's definitely on that road of, I cannot speak for what people's legitimate political beliefs might or might not be, but I think certainly one could say that there is a realm of celebrity who is getting far more attention for saying obnoxiously reactionary things than they were for anything else in the last 20 years or so.
Right. Scott Baio, for example.
For instance, just to throw a name out there. You know who we're talking about.
Right. All our old 80s friends, it's more profitable for them, or it keeps them at least vaguely relevant if they say dumb shit like this. So yes, yeah. Dean Cain is mad and he thinks that that's not what Superman should be made for. Dean Cain, of course, played Superman on television opposite Terry Hatcher. What was the show called?
Superman and Lois.
That's right.
Or no, Clark and Lois and Clark.
I don't know.
I never watched the show. I don't know.
He knows whereof he speaks. He thinks, having worn the tights himself. Right?
Yeah. So he gets to decide now what that character is going to be because that's how acting works.
Right. And he went on Fox and Friends to make this complaint. This is where this comes from. Please.
He was thrilled to be asked, I'm sure.
Right. Your source for all breaking celebrity news, Fox and Friends. So there is that. And then other icons who are controversial. William Shatner did indeed go into space on Jeff Bezos's penis rocket, and he's 90. So he is far and away the oldest person ever to go into space.
Yes, but not the first person to go into space and be on Star Trek, because apparently they had one of the astronauts came on the show. She's a black MD who went up in one of the shuttle flights and then later had a cameo on the show. So
well, that's cool. Well, as you guys were alluding to last week, not everyone likes Shatner, including his former co-star George Takei, who called him unfit to go into space and said he's just a guinea pig, according to Page 6.
Well, look, there's always that they should have sent a poet thing. And I don't know that Shatner necessarily qualifies, although he is a spoken word artist. We must acknowledge that. And also it's just like there is, I don't know if you watch Hulu. I have been, watching Only Murders in the Building and, doing a Mary Tyler Moore rewatch. And so you start seeing a lot of the same commercials over and over again. And lately, the same commercial that you see over and over again, or versions thereof, is these ads from Amazon about what a great place it is to work. And we pay people $15 an hour and we'll help you, go back to school and yada, yada, yada. And it's like they leave the peeing in jars part out. It's all about what a great career opportunity is to go work for Apple. And between Amazon.
Yeah.
So between those ads, which I feel like I'm bombarded with every time I'm streaming something on Hulu, and Bezos doing these stupid space flights, but now sticking Shatner onto one to sort of like make it look like less of a pointless billionaire ego trip. It just, this all smells of a massive PR campaign for me. And let's not forget, the reason that he needs to have a massive PR campaign is because Amazon treats their employees like shit. And, he would like us to stop talking about that. And they don't pay
taxes. This is his childhood dream.
And they don't pay taxes.
This is his childhood dream, though. Why must you shit all over his childhood dream, Alonso?
Because he doesn't pay taxes and he treats his employees like shit. That's why. I
think putting Shatner in space is even more egregious of a gimmick than going up by himself in space. It's like, look, Captain Kirk himself. There he is, guys. He's really in space. And so that seems even more like a shameless, waste of everyone's time to me.
Yeah, no, this is billionaire propaganda. Let's recognize it for what it is.
I forgot to mention off the top, for those of you guys who are watching this.
Yes, I'm in a haunted house.
We need to explain what Alonso's background is.
Usually people will see a wall of books behind me because this wall has a bookshelf on it. This weekend, this wall is being repainted. And so we moved all the books and all the shelving and everything to other parts of the apartment. And it turns out that under the paint and under the plaster is 1950s wallpaper. And if it were attractive 1950s wallpaper, we would maybe try and work with it. But since it's not that great, we have to spackle and then repaint the whole wall.
So a couple questions for you on this. How much of a pain in the ass was it to schlep all of those books and all those cinder blocks and all those wooden platforms that you guys assembled there?
A giant pain in the ass. Thanks for asking. Also because as despite all of our efforts to be tidy and, keep the place clean, books are dust magnets. And so, you start getting those bottom shelves and you're just going to find some clumps you didn't really want to encounter.
Were you sneezing like mad?
No, but I had to rinse, and Dave very wisely wore a mask the whole time just to not have to get, all that up in his eyes and nose. So,
yikes.
So it's been a journey.
So when you guys moved in there 20 years ago, did you not know that there was this putty colored wall with chunks of bad wallpaper beneath it? What was there?
This has always been a painted wall in all the time that we've lived here.
Okay.
It's not always been the same color, but yeah, that wallpaper was well buried beneath, decades worth of paint and plaster.
So how long are you going to be in this upheaval state here?
Well, the painting happens this weekend. So maybe actually, you know what? Next week, I'm not going to be here anyway. I'll be doing the program from a different location. So by the time I'm back doing the show from here, for sure, there will be a bookshelf behind me again.
I'm very happy that you're going to be in a different location, by the way. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Dave White. What? Maybe, he says. Okay, I'll make no promises about the bookshelf.
All right. Okay, back to news. I just had to call attention to the fact that there's this you guys, if you're listening to the podcast, there's giant cracks behind him, on this really ugly putty colored wall, and then one big chunk of, I don't even know what shape that is. It's like a weird slab of ugly brown wallpaper.
Yeah, it's it's not Michigan, but it's some sort of blobby thing.
It's the Upper Peninsula, perhaps.
There you go.
It's like the fingers of the hand. So, okay, so we have other news for you. So IATSE, this, the union that covers so many below the line crew members, they voted overwhelmingly in favor of a strike. And the president of IATSE said this week that unless there's an agreement that, because they're trying to negotiate this out and avoid a strike. But if not, 60,000 TV and film workers will strike starting at 12:01 a.m. Monday.
Mm-hmm. And, as if to demonstrate why this strike was necessary, you hear all these stories now of producers trying to get people to work on Saturday and Sunday this week just so they could cram as much in before the strike happens. And they were all like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. I've heard the occasional report that like some progress is being made with the producers. But I think right now it's looking very overwhelmingly like a strike's probably going to happen. If it doesn't, great. If that means that IATSE gets what they're asking for, which they deserve, and a strike can be averted, great. But that's going to take some giving on the other side. We'll see what happens.
Yes, we'll keep you posted on that. So that's something to look for over the weekend. Speaking of walking out, many Netflix employees, transgender Netflix employees, and others who support them in this plan to walk out on Monday to protest Netflix streaming the Dave Chappelle comedy special that a lot of folks are understandably upset about because of some very insensitive and archaic transgender jokes he has made. Alonso, you watched it. Can you describe what that's all about?
Yeah, I mean, this is a well to which Chappelle just can't stop himself from returning, it would appear. And, the overall tone is like, you're not listening to me. You're not understanding me. Let me go through this for you again. And then he just says the same stupid shit that shows that he doesn't know what he's talking about. So it's really kind of depressing. And then I think this has all been compounded by the fact that you have Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos going out and saying, oh, well, we don't think that content that we stream has any kind of real life consequences. It doesn't lead to any kind of real life violence. And on the one hand, yes, this is the argument we've been making for years that you can't blame, violent movies or, video games or whatever, as a sole reason for why people get shot. But you can, I think, blame misinformation about a certain group of people on other individuals deciding to make that group of people the object of violence. And so I think that Netflix is compounding the problem here by being so cavalier about it. Do I think that censorship is the answer? It's not for me to say, but I do think that they are being so blasé and trying to pretend like they have no responsibility in this while giving this guy a platform. And he uses that platform, of course, to complain about how he's being canceled, which is hilarious. And so, yeah, I don't blame the Netflix employees, whether it's trans employees or their allies, for being like, no, we need to say something about this, because people who have already been speaking up have gotten like suspended for tweeting about it, or like showing up at some board meeting even though they didn't say anything. So I think we are witnessing like a decision that was already questionable, and how bad follow-up just makes these things snowball into something really enormous. And Netflix, for as savvy as they are about a lot of things and about how they handle a lot of issues, I think are really kind of bobbling this one.
Also, it seems disingenuous to suggest that this is an artistic decision, right? That this is a speech issue. We support him and his right to say what he wants, and we're not here to cancel anybody, when in actuality, this is a decision driven by clicks. This is a decision driven by views.
Oh, clearly.
And it's about profit and not art. So to suggest like, oh, we stand by, this is the whole point of comedy, is to push boundaries and make you uncomfortable. Yes, that's true. But that does not necessarily seem like the primary driving force behind this decision. And the fact that we're having this conversation is also the point of this decision, is to keep it around.
Yes.
Right?
So more people will go click on it. Oh, I have to know what this is all about.
Now I got to watch it, right?
Yeah.
So there is that. So we'll keep an eye on that. Also, Netflix this week, they've been teasing this big David Fincher announcement. Big David Fincher announcement. And what it ended up being is this documentary series called Voir, V-O-I-R, the French verb to watch, to view. Unless you're in Texas and you're being chosen for a jury, in which it's voir dire. Did you know that? That's how they pronounce that. Voir dire.
Yes.
Voir dire in Texas. We're going to quiz them on how they feel about things. And then it's Drew McQueenie, our fellow film critic, is a main force behind assembling all this. He's been working on this for years with Fincher. But there was, and it sounds cool, but there was all this disappointment. Like, Oh, that's what the thing is?
Well, I know
Okay.
a lot of people were like, "Ooh, a third season of Mindhunter." Like, yeah, nope, sorry, that's so.
Oh, it's a bunch of video essays. That sounds cool. People were mad.
I think, and I think this has certainly the potential to be interesting. But again, if you're gonna promote something like that, I think people are maybe expecting something like that is not a documentary. Like you and I get excited about documentaries. I don't know if everybody does.
I saw Dune yesterday.
Oh, okay.
And I saw it at the IMAX screening room. And I walked into it, and we'll talk about Dune next week because Dune will be out next week in theaters and on HBO Max. So we will all have seen it in some form. But I saw it at the IMAX theater here in Playa Vista, just up the road a piece. And I was walking into it like, okay, it sounds dumb. It's 2.5 hours long, but IMAX is cool. So let's go see it. I was so blown away.
Okay.
I can't wait to talk about it with you guys. And I'm very hopeful that at some point you and Matt will be able to see it on a screen. I was so happy that I saw it in IMAX because so much of it is shot in IMAX. And it does make that transition in terms of the aspect ratio and all that between the enormity of IMAX and then just the normal widescreen. Right. You need to see it in a theater for the sound design. It's like ass rumbling sound design. It is beautiful. It is intense. I wasn't moved by it emotionally, but I was repeatedly blown away by it from a technical perspective.
Okay. I will be watching it on a laptop the way Denis Villeneuve really intended.
I'm so sorry. I was thinking about you the whole time I was watching it. I'm like, oh man, Alonso's missing out on all of Timmy's eyelashes. You can count Timmy's eyelashes. They're so pretty. No, but like the costume design is beautiful. It's just, it's a beautiful film and just intense and needs to be experienced. So I hope that for you someday. So we'll have a review of that next week. Yes. Speaking of Timmy, the first images have come out of him as Willy Wonka in this Wonka prequel. He's young Wonka.
Yes. Wonkette, one might say.
Are you excited about young Timmy as young Wonka?
I am torn.
Yeah.
On the one hand, like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is a cornerstone movie for me. Like, the wallpaper on my phone is the Wonka bar art. Like that's probably the film I've seen more times than any other movie in my entire life. So I don't know that I need a prequel. I don't need them to futz about with it and to try and give me things that I don't need about the character's backstory. At the same time, this is going to be directed by Paul King, who did Paddington and Paddington 2, which I really liked and certainly weren't movies that I went in thinking I need this in my life. So maybe he's got some way to tell this story and it's going to blow me away. And I hope it does. I mean, we go into every movie with the stated or unstated hope that we're about to have our socks knocked off, but on paper, just the idea of like, here's a character, and we own the IP. So let's talk about their early years so we can give you dozens of Easter eggs about things will happen later. Like, but we'll see. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
I feel like Timothée Chalamet is a really inspired choice. And because he is starring in it, that gives me hope because he is somebody who takes chances and has kind of a playful sensitivity and androgyny to him that will fit well with this character. I have fond memories of this as a child. I don't have the deep affinity for it that you do, but I really liked it. And I read the book and saw the movie a million times. Gene Wilder is, indelibly Willy Wonka to me. But I'm curious to see what Timmy can do. Timothée Chalamet also was the subject of a big Time magazine cover piece where they asked him about Armie Hammer.
Oh.
Yeah.
And what did he say?
He handled it really deftly. He said, I understand why you're asking me this. Of course, Armie Hammer is his Call Me By Your Name co-star. They were very intimate in their scenes together. And it's a beautiful film and my favorite of that year. And I love it very much. And, but we've learned a lot of things about Armie Hammer since then and, about his not so sensitive side. And so Timothée Chalamet said, I totally understand why you're asking me this, but it is a larger conversation and I don't want this getting taken out of context. And so he didn't expand. And I don't know, I guess maybe the writer didn't push.
That's a diplomatic answer.
It totally was. I thought he handled it really well. So I think he's smart. He's a smart young man in doing all that.
You know, it's like, explain this guy you worked with once and tell us everything we need to know. It's like,
right. But then there was going to be a sequel.
There was, yes.
Which there's not now.
I guess not. Is there even going to be Death on the Nile? Is that movie ever coming out?
Yeah, that's problematic.
Like, there's a whole other Kenneth Branagh movie coming out that isn't Death on the Nile that he made after that one.
Belfast,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, is it that he's so prominent in it that like he's inescapable and it will just ruin the experience? I don't know, I guess.
I think just the idea of promoting it and having a junket where everybody's going to have to answer that question or be asked that question anyway, I suspect that is part of the issue there. I mean, the other thing about the Armie Hammer thing is like all these awful allegations came out and then like silence. Like I don't even know where all that lies right now. So
the LAPD was investigating.
Okay.
Los Angeles police detectives were investigating this and he is just laying low.
Yeah.
And he's not posting on social media at all.
And they are burying this movie until it seems like we can, you know, if they move past it or if something happens where he doesn't become the central part of the conversation. But I think that and while he is, it's just not worth it because you can't like Christopher Plummer him. I mean, like that's a major. He's the male lead or the second male lead of the film behind, you know, Branagh himself. So and
you can't ask journalists not to ask that question.
No, of course
you can't
not.
Say to them, "Look, we're going to give you access to all the stars. Just please don't ask him about Armie Hammer." You can't put that caveat out there.
Yeah, no one's going to follow that.
Yes. Anyway, so we'll keep following that. Julianna Margulies was asked about her role in the morning show. We're talking about the morning show here on our Patreon. Yes. If you have not already joined, please do. We love having you. But we talk about the morning show among many TV shows. And she plays a lesbian character who had to hide her sexuality for a long time at the previous network where she worked. And now she's out at the same network where Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon work. And so she was asked about straight actors playing gay characters and vice versa. And she was kind of coy about it and said, like, who's to say that I haven't had these experiences? What do you think about that?
I mean, this is a tricky one.
Yeah.
I am not hard and fast about the idea of like only, you know, queer actors playing queer characters. I think it's preferable. I think they bring a lot to the table. I am pretty insistent, I think, now about trans characters playing trans actors playing trans characters, because I think that's there's a lot of problems with going any other way with that, because having a cisgender actor playing a trans character underscores the mistaken belief that transgenderism is some sort of costume that is put on, you know, whereas I think that, you know, I can point to any number of great performances by straight actors as queer characters. And, you know, obviously I would prefer that queer actors get the opportunities until there's more parity in the industry for what people get cast in. The whole, like, how do you know I'm not is, it's a little disingenuous for me, just because I feel like if you want to be silent about your sexuality, then be silent about your sexuality. That is your right. If you want to talk about your sexuality in the press, if you're a famous person, that too is your right. But that waffly middle, we're like, well, you don't know, maybe that just it's a little disingenuous. It kind of reminds me of. Are you watching The Other Two by chance?
No, I hear it's good though.
Brilliant sitcom on HBO Max. Anyway, there's a character. There's one of the regular characters, regularly occurring characters, is a gay guy, and he starts dating this famous actor, only to discover that this famous actor just like is constantly gay baiting everybody. Like he wants to play gay roles, but he doesn't actually want to come out. And it turns out he's straight anyway, but he's always doing these things. Like he'll always meet up with this guy, like at a table on the sidewalk at a cafe, or like they'll be, hey, let's go walk your dog in the middle of the night. And like the paps are always there and they're always bugging him. And he's always like, guys, I told you, I don't want to talk about my sexuality in public. So there's a little bit of convenience there for me where she gets to enjoy playing this role. She gets to make the writer feel like shit for having brought it up, but she doesn't have to say, yes, I am proudly whatever she might be.
Yeah. It's also a funny bit of life imitating art in that kind of taking advantage of, your sexuality is exactly the advice that her character gives Bradley, Reese Witherspoon's character, because Bradley is kind of fluid in her sexuality, and Laura's like, you should use that. Who says that you're a straight white woman? You should use whatever you have to get ahead. So she's kind of doing the same thing.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about Halloween Kills later on today, because we all had to either stay up late or get up early to watch it, which we'll talk about when we get to that. But the actual premiere of this movie was this past week, and it was a costume party themed red carpet, and Jamie Lee Curtis dressed up as her mom in Psycho, and it was eerie.
It's pretty great. I don't know. I think she might have done this before. I forget. I think she might have cosplayed her mom. But yeah, no, it's fun. And I mean, she has this really interesting place in sort of Hollywood history. She's a double legacy. Her dad was also a huge movie star. But obviously, I think the fact that she is Janet Leigh's daughter is probably one of the main reasons that John Carpenter cast her in the first Halloween in the first place. And she's never hidden from that, nor should she. And so I think she is kind of this, she's leaning into the idea of, yes, I am a second generation scream queen. And so I'm going to pay homage to the mother of us all by dressing as Marion Crane.
Yeah. She had the hair and the purse and the dress. So she just looked fantastic. But then also it's so cool with her that she's carved out her own totally singular place in pop culture, so that's a lot of fun too. So that happened this week. A couple other things, and we'll move on to our reviews. I don't know who this person is. Who is Adam Warlock in the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise? So Adam Poulter is going to, I'm sorry. Will Poulter is going to play Adam Warlock. Who is Adam Warlock?
I was so afraid you were going to ask me that because I don't really know. I do know that, Elliot Kalin, who co-hosts The Flophouse and is a Marvel Comics writer himself, has been very excited for a long time about the prospect of Adam Warlock entering into the MCU. So I'm going to assume that it's a good thing that this is happening, and I like Will Poulter as an actor, but I do not have an Adam Warlock backstory for you because I don't really know.
This is why we need Matt here. Yes. So, but James Gunn, I learned this because James Gunn retweeted some report of that, and he was like, you guys know I never comment on casting, but this one's true, so here you go. Okay, so he confirmed it on Twitter. So there is that. The trailer for Scream 5 came out. People are very excited about this. I could not possibly give a shit less about yet another Scream movie. I don't like this franchise, and why do we need a whole nother one? Is it just like the pull of nostalgia? Is that it?
I mean, it's hard to say because it is so the movie that launched the whole kind of meta slasher craze of the 90s, where we're self-awarely talking about how people behave in movies because it's as though we were in a movie, but we're not. Wink, wink. I like them actually. I think 3 and 4 are kind of underrated. Certainly after Halloween Kills, I like a movie where it's not always the same slasher every time. I could live without one, but I'm not mad that they're doing it again, although it should really be 5 cream, but that's, I hate when sequels or remakes just get the same title as the first movie. I feel bad for the archivists if nothing else, because this one is just going out as Scream. It's not Scream 5. It's not, it's just Scream.
Like David Gordon Green's Halloween was just Halloween.
For instance, or like the 3 movies called Shaft,
That is confusing. Anyway, so that's a thing that's coming out in January. I guess we can talk about it. And then one more little bit of news for you. Brett Goldstein and Bill Lawrence from Ted Lasso are teaming up with Jason Segel to develop a show on Apple TV Plus called Shrinking. So I guess he's a shrink. Jason Segel is a shrink. And the gimmick is that he starts telling people the truth, the brutal, unvarnished truth.
Aren't Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell about to do a show about a shrink for Apple TV Plus, like The Shrink Next Door or something?
Oh, So people need therapy at Apple TV Plus, apparently. And they're working through it by having awesome writers like Brett Goldstein working on it.
Yeah, I mean, look, why not? I still remember when The Sopranos went on the air and everybody's like, isn't that the premise of Analyze This? So, you can do multiple things with a similar idea.
I guess so. One last thing I forgot to mention. Two things. Titane is France's Oscar submission, which we reviewed last week on the show.
Yeah.
A totally bold choice because it's just like a fucked up, intense movie.
Yeah, I mean, like in the olden times when only the oldest Academy members really bothered to sit through all the foreign films because that's how it was structured that way, that would have been mass hysteria. But I think now that I think there are committees involved and they get more of a cross section of folks, so it could pay off. Also, did you notice that Spain's choice for foreign films this year is not Parallel Mothers?
I did not. What did they pick?
I forget. It's a movie we haven't seen yet. But
it's not an Almodovar film.
It's not Almodovar, yeah.
That is interesting too. And then you have some Degrassi news, some breaking Degrassi news. Only you can tell this one.
Yes. So this is a big deal. So when Drake, back when he was the artist known as Aubrey Graham, it was an actor on Degrassi, which is the first time a lot of people saw him. There's a story now that apparently his lawyers had threatened the show that he would exit if they did not take his character out of the wheelchair that he was put into after being shot in a school shooting. They go on to say that Aubrey/Drake knew nothing about it and immediately, said, oh, no, of course not, because they talked about how important the representation of a character in a wheelchair was on the show and how, they didn't want to sort of soft pedal the lingering effects of violence by having everything get all, fixed up and resolved quickly. But yeah, the screaming headlines is like, Drake threatened to leave Degrassi if they didn't get him out of that wheelchair. And so, read the fine print.
And you are a Degrassi aficionado.
I am a Degrassi aficionado. It's true. It was a heck of a show. And it's so fun now to see so many of those folks graduating into Hallmark Christmas movies because, it's a whole feeder program into the Vancouver film industry.
You don't have to go south of the border at all. You can just stay in Canada.
Exactly.
Keep working. Anyway, that's all the news I've got for you this week.
All righty. Well, hey, thanks for sticking around, everybody. Even Mattless, we do our best to bring it all to you. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out our Patreon page. As Christy mentioned, we are talking about the morning show. Things get nutty this week. Also, we have lots of fun extra stuff that's exclusive to our subscribers, including our monthly classic review, which is the vote finished? Do we have a winner?
I think it's Raw.
Okay, we had a runoff between Raw and Audition because folks wanted us anyway. Whichever it is, if you have to be a subscriber to watch it. So go be a subscriber. Also, if you like watching all of these amazing videos that we do without a commercial interruption, like you get on YouTube, you get to see them commercial free on our Patreon page. So join up, patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. Have a good week, everybody. Take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you next time.
Bye.